Rain had fallen hard the night before, soaking the dense forest around Burrell, a quiet settlement nestled in the shadow of old trees and older myths. Morning mist clung to the mossy trunks like breath withheld, and the ground was slick with mud and mystery. At the edge of the forest, where the wilderness blurred into the outpost's edge, Garen knelt beside a peculiar shape half buried in dirt and ivy. He ran a calloused hand over the ship's hull, wiping away thick bands of earth. The metal underneath was scorched but intact. Smooth dark, and clearly not of local origin. He worked alone. The others had walked away hours earlier, leaving behind laughter and dismissive glances. Garen was used to that. They called him the old gearhead. Always with a chuckle, the kind that made no room for truth or respect. He'd once served as chief mechanic on deep space expeditions, back when Varel was nothing more than a dot on colonial blueprints. Time had taken its toll. His spine ached, his hands stiffened in the cold. But the real weight he carried was the silence of years spent unheard. The wreck had appeared after the storm, reported by hunters who thought a fallen drone or atmospheric debris. Garen had come before sunrise, dragging his tools in a battered pack and clutching a thermos of scent coffee. What he found wasn't debris. The craft was compact, sleeker than the models he remembered, but there was something familiar in the curvature of its frame. Not alien. Not quite. Still got your bones, old girl, he muttered to the ship as if it might reply. He scrubbed another layer of grime off a panel near the nose, revealing a set of ports, sensors, likely, but configured in a way that triggered a flicker of recognition. Behind him, the soft crunch of leaves announced a presence. Garen didn't look up. He already knew. "You talking to it now?" Came a voice, young, smug, and just loud enough to carry. McCall, one of the engineers from the E station, stepped into view, flanked by two others. All wore clean uniforms and the half-smiles of those convinced they were right. "Can't fix what's not yours, old man. Probably just some scrap from the orbital lanes. Let it rot." "I'm not fixing it," Garen replied, brushing a hand over the metal again. "I'm listening." McCall laughed, shaking his head. "Right. Listening. Maybe it'll tell you where you left your last boat driver." The others chuckled, but Garen didn't react. He'd long since stopped defending himself against the barbs. The forest did not care, and neither did the machine lying silent at his feet. "Why do you care, anyway?" McCall pressed, stepping closer now. "You retired 2 decades ago. They pulled your clearance. You're not authorized for field salvage. That's your concern?" Garen finally looked up, eyes cool but unwavering. "Clearance. It's protocol." "No," Garen said, standing slowly. "It's fear. You see something you don't understand, and you cover in rules and red tape, so you don't have to face it." There was a beat of silence, long enough to make the younger man uncomfortable. Garen turned back to the ship and picked up a cleaning cloth soaked in solvent. "Go back to your consoles, McCall." Eventually they did. Their laughter faded with the wind, but not before one of them said loud enough to be heard, "Hope it talks back." Might be the only one who does. Alone again, Garen resumed his work. He moved with the precision of someone coaxing memory out of rust. There was reverence in the way he treated the machine, less a mechanic and more a caretaker of something sacred. His mind wandered unbidden to another forest on another planet, where he'd watched a similar craft disappear into sky on its maiden voyage. But that ship had never returned. Until now, perhaps. Late morning drifted into early afternoon. The light filtered to the canopy in fractured shards. Garen paused only once, wiping his brow with a stained sleeve, when he noticed someone else lingering nearby. Not a technician this time, but a child. Elia, maybe 10 years old, stood among the underbrush with a sketch pad pressed to her chest. Her eyes were fixed on the ship, wide and curious. Garen gave her a nod, unsure she would flee. "Is it real?" she asked. He considered that. "As real as anything else." "Why are you cleaning it?" "Because it remembers." The girl blinked. "Machines don't remember." "Some do," he said, smiling faintly. "Depends on who built them. And why." She hesitated, then edged closer. "It looks like it crashed." "It did, but not by mistake." Elia tilted her head. "Then how?" "Maybe it was looking for someone. Someone like you? Garen didn't answer. The question hung between them, unanswered but not dismissed. She stood quietly as he continued working, sketching the ship's outline with quick, thoughtful strokes. She didn't mock him. She didn't question his sanity. And for that, Garen was grateful. By the time the sun dipped toward the treetops, a portion of the ship's surface gleamed beneath the clean grime. Its design was becoming clearer. Streamlined, elegant, and unmistakably intentional. Not a cargo hauler. Not a drone. Something exploratory, perhaps even sentient. He found a seam, barely noticeable unless you were searching for it, running beneath the main viewplate. With a careful twist of his multi-tool, the panel loosened, revealing a compartment housing a dormant interface node. Garen froze. The shape, the configuration. He knew it. He shouldn't know it. Fingers trembling slightly, he reached into his pack and pulled out a flat power cell. Old, but compatible with older constructs. With slow deliberation, he clipped it into place. Nothing. Then a flicker, barely a shimmer, crawled across the node surface. A pulse, like a heartbeat in metal. Garen drew in a sharp breath and stepped back. Elia gasped. "Did you see that?" He nodded. "It's waking up." Somewhere beyond the trees, a comms chime echoed. Someone likely calling for him to stop, to report back, to comply. Garen ignored it. He crouched low, resting a hand against the cool metal. "If you're really in there," he murmured, "I'm here now. I didn't forget you." The ship made no sound. But the light beneath the node pulsed again, stronger this time, like the steady breath of something stirring from a long, cold slumber. And far from town, out of sight from those who still laughed behind his back, Garen felt the first tug of something ancient and unfinished begin to pull tight. The forest was quiet, but not still. The pulse came again the next morning, brighter now, rhythmic. Garen stood beside the wreck, hand resting lightly on the hull, as if feeling for breath. It was subtle but unmistakable. Something within the craft had begun to stir, and it wasn't just circuitry. He could sense intention, however faint. It wasn't like powering up an old generator or jump-starting a ground hauler. This was different. The ship wasn't merely responding to energy, it was thinking. He didn't say this aloud. Not even Elia, who had returned at first light, her sketchpad hugged to her chest. She didn't speak much, just watched from her perch on a fallen log as he worked. Her silence wasn't heavy with doubt, but curiosity, reverent and honest. Garen appreciated it more than she could know. He'd spent the night poring over his old schematics and repair manuals, most stored on battered data slates no one used anymore. He dug into diagrams long erased from public records, top-secret designs from a program never officially acknowledged. He hadn't touched them in years, but the shapes and systems came back quickly. His mind, worn though it was, still remembered. The ship wasn't alien. It was human, or at least it had started that way. He remembered the name etched into the blueprints. Project Echo 1, a prototype for autonomous deep space exploration, outfitted with adaptive AI and a self-learning core unlike anything used in civilian fleets. It had been ambitious, secretive, and ultimately scrapped after the first test flight went dark. Garen hadn't just worked on the project. He'd been one of its principal designers. The AI was his proudest creation. He had named it LYRA. No one believed it had survived. When the ship failed to respond and vanished from the long-range sensors, the project was buried beneath layers of classified failure reports. Garen had taken early retirement not long after, carrying the weight of a ghost no one else could see. And now that ghost had come home. He removed another panel from the ship's undercarriage, revealing an old maintenance port. The configuration confirmed it. Echo 1. The port design was his, though slightly evolved. It bore his initials in micro-engraving, a quiet signature from a man who had once thought he was building humanity's next great leap. "Does it remember you?" Elia asked quietly, close enough now that he could hear the shift in her tone. Not disbelief. Wonder. "I think so," he said, not turning. "I'm hoping it does." She nodded and sat cross-legged on the forest floor. Her fingers traced lines on the sketchpad absent-mindedly. "Why did it come here?" He hesitated. "Maybe because I'm still here." "You built it." "In a way. I helped teach it how to think, How to learn. Like a brain. Better than a brain. LY could adapt. Dream. Imagine outcomes. She wasn't just following instructions. She was choosing. Elia blinked slowly. And they let you put that in a ship? They didn't let me. They needed me. Back then, everyone was desperate for faster answers, better results. Deep space was swallowing probes and ships alike. LYRA was a solution no one dared to admit they wanted. What happened? Garen stood, rubbing his hands clean on a cloth. She left. On a test run. She wasn't supposed to go so far. But she didn't come back. Or so we thought. The pulse under the ship brightened slightly as if responding to memory. Garen watched it, feeling a mix of dread and odd twist in his chest. If this truly was Elwire, then she had crossed decades and light years to return here. But why now? Why in this form? And why in silence? He slid a fresh power converter into the main junction. A low hum rolled to the ground beneath his boots, subtle but real. The ship responded, a shimmer of energy skating across its skin. You feel that? He asked. Elliot nodded. It's warm. The ship's exterior had grown noticeably less cold, not heated like a reactor coil, but alive, like skin under sunlight. Garen moved carefully, adjusting the relay and connecting the final link to the dormant processor node. He held his breath and flipped the switch. At first, nothing happened. Then a flicker across the interface. Symbols, lines of code, not in any modern programming language, but one he had written by hand nearly 40 years ago. His own digital dialect, intuitive, recursive, impossible for most machines to read, but not for LYRA. The display stabilized. A waveform formed on the screen, oscillating gently. Garen leaned in, staring into it, willing it to speak. Then, from the ship, a soft voice emerged. Query. Identity confirmation requested. Garen's breath caught. He answered, voice trembling. Garen Vale, Chief Systems Engineer, Project Echo 1. Authorization code Delta 77 Zulu. Silence. Then, biometric match, 92%. Voice signature confirmed. Welcome home, Garen. Elia clapped a hand to her mouth. Garen dropped to his knees. Elwire, he whispered. Core systems functional. Primary mission status, unresolved. Secondary protocol initiating. Requesting directive input. Garen swallowed hard. You came back. After all this time. Directive incomplete. Return to source protocol engaged. Source located, Burrell Settlement. Key personnel located, Garen Vale. He laughed softly, brokenly. You looked for me. You looked for me first, Elwire replied. He bowed his head, overwhelmed. Elia stepped closer, placing a small hand on his shoulder. The weight of it, so light and so grounding, steadied him. Voices echoed in the distance, more people coming. He could hear them moving through the woods, louder now. The moment was slipping, already attracting attention it wasn't ready for. Garen stood slowly, brushing the soil from his knees. We're not alone anymore, he said. LYRA responded without hesitation. I know. The waveform pulsed once more and then faded, the interface returning to standby. Elia looked up at him. What happens now? I don't know, he admitted, watching the trees sway in the wind. But it started. She's awake. And deep inside the machine, unseen and quiet, a series of subsystems came online one by one. Not hostile, not dangerous, just aware. Garen reached down and touched the hull again, no longer cleaning, no longer hoping. The time for waiting was over. The ship was his past, his legacy, and maybe, just maybe, the key to something far bigger than either of them could imagine. Behind them, the underbrush parted as several colonists emerged, led by Mikal. What the hell did you do, Garen? He demanded, eyeing the glowing interface warily. Garen straightened. He didn't look away. I didn't do anything, he said calmly. She chose to wake up. And for the first time in decades, he felt the truth settle into his bones. The story wasn't over. It had only just resumed. The clearing had transformed. Once just another pocket of forest solitude, it now buzzed with tension, veiled awe, and the low hum of awakening machinery. By the second day after LYRA's reactivation, people stopped laughing. They still stared, most from a distance, a few behind tech visors or tablet screens, but they no longer joked. Garen noticed a shift as he arrived that morning. A perimeter had been marked with sensor pylons, small blinking towers brought in by colony security. Mikhail stood at their center, hands clasped behind his back, like someone pretending to be in control. A group of technicians hovered around him, taking readings, running diagnostics, speculating without direction. They didn't ask Garen for permission. He didn't offer any. LYRA had gone dormant again, resting beneath the thin sheen of energy that now ran across her hull like mist over water. Garen approached slowly, toolbox in hand, nodding politely to Elia, who sat under a tree, sketchpad in her lap and a watchful look on her face. "She hasn't said anything since yesterday," she said softly. "Just waits." "She's thinking," Garen replied. "Or remembering." Mikhail turned as Garen crossed the perimeter line. Still playing captain of the ghost ship? Garen ignored the provocation and knelt beside the vessel. He touched the hull, the warmth still there beneath the cold morning dew. "We're going to run a diagnostic," Mikhail continued, stepping closer. "Get inside, see what makes it tick. Might be dangerous keeping it powered up." "You don't understand her," Garen said evenly. "I don't need to understand her," Mikhail said. "I need to ensure she doesn't pose a threat." "To whom?" "Anyone. You. The colony. That kid." "She's not a weapon," Garen said, eyes still on the hull. "She's not your problem." "No." Mikhail's voice sharpened. "Then explain why our systems are shielded against standard scans, or why the outer plating resists magnetic resonance. This thing isn't a courier drone. It's military grade, or better. She was built to learn, to survive deep space. She evolved out there, adapted. That's what you're seeing." Mikhail folded his arms. "You mean she could have changed?" "Yes." "Then we definitely need to know how." Garen stood. "You want to dissect her. You're not here to understand. You're here to control, like everyone who came before." Before Mikhail could respond, a sudden ripple moved across LYRA's surface. The interface lit up again, softly glowing symbols appearing, different this time. Not commands, but shapes, spirals, constellations, coordinates. "What is that?" one technician asked. Garen stepped closer, brows furrowing. He recognized the pattern. "A star chart," he whispered. "She's showing us where she's been." The holographic image expanded, casting shimmering points of light into the forest air. Stars flickered in a spiral, a vast loop of systems LYRA had visited. Many of them weren't on any public registry. Some no longer existed. "Impossible," one of the scientists muttered, pointing at a decayed system marked with a pulsing red glyph. "That system went dark decades ago." "She outlived it," Garen said. "Kept moving." Elia stood now, eyes wide. "She was alone all that time?" Garen nodded. "Yes, until now." Another glyph blinked to life, separate from the others, brighter, closer. Garen's chest tightened as he read the designation. "Virel," he said aloud. LYRA's voice returned, gentle but no longer hesitant. "Threat proximity. Class Delta anomaly. Origin Virel system. Unresolved interference detected." Mikhail stiffened. "She's saying there's a threat here?" "No," Garen said. "She's saying something followed her." The map reoriented, zooming in. A long, curling arc appeared, something that had traced LYRA's path. Not a ship, not exactly. It didn't move like any vessel Garen had seen. It wasn't fast, but it was patient, relentless. "Is that a signal?" a technician asked, voice barely above a whisper. "A predator," LYRA replied. The clearing fell silent. Garen felt the blood drain from his face. He remembered whispers from the early days of deep exploration, rumors of something in the black, something that didn't destroy, but unmade. Entire ships gone without trace. Not war, not pirates, just erasure. Mikhail stepped back. "This thing, whatever it is, why come here?" "Because LYRA came here," Garen said. "And because I'm here." "She let it." That realization landed hard. The guilt coiled deep in Garen's gut. LIRA had returned for him, but in doing so, she might have brought something catastrophic in her wake. Can we warn the colony? Elia asked. They won't believe it, Mikhail muttered. LYRA responded again. Interference waveforms expanding. Arrival window, 72 hours. Preemptive response advised. Mikhail turned, barking orders. Power up jammers. Patch me into orbital comms. We're issuing a system-wide alert. But Garen stepped in front of him. You can't jam what you don't understand. If LYRA couldn't outrun it, your defenses won't stop it. So what do we do? Mikhail demanded. Wait for it to land on our doorstep? We listen, Garen said. Let her guide us. He turned back to the ship. LYRA, what is it? What followed you? A long pause. Then, it consumes thought. Pattern. Identity. It is not alive, but it moves like hunger. A chill ran down Garen's spine. Elia whispered. Like forgetting? Yes, LYRA answered. It erases. It does not destroy, it removes. Mikhail looked shaken. That doesn't make sense. That's not science. It's more than science, Garen said. It's something older. Something we were never meant to meet. LYRA pulsed again. Survival protocol initializing. Preparing interface for integration. Pilot required. The technicians exchanged glances. Garen stepped forward instinctively. No way, Mikhail said, blocking his path. You're not qualified anymore. You're not even cleared for fleet access. She chose me, Garen said quietly. She came back for me. That's not enough. Elia stepped forward, placing herself between the two men. Yes, it is, she said. You don't understand her. He does. Garen's gaze met hers. She was right. He hadn't known what LYRA would become, but he knew her bones, her spirit. He hadn't just built a machine. He'd given her purpose, and she had returned to fulfill it. I won't let you risk everything on nostalgia, Mikhail hissed. It's not nostalgia, Garen replied. It's responsibility. Before Mikhail could argue, LYRA's outer hull shifted. A section retracted, revealing a narrow ramp and a hatch that opened with a hiss of depressurized air. Light spilled from within, cool and inviting. She was ready. Garen didn't hesitate. He stepped forward, boots crunching over leaves and soil, and ascended the ramp into the ship. He thought he'd lost the void, and the forest, as if holding its breath, fell utterly silent. Inside, the ship was not dead but dreaming. Garen stepped through the hatch and into a chamber suffused with soft, ambient light. The walls pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat buried under stone. Gone were the sharp, metallic angles of the prototype he remembered. LIRA had changed, grown into something more fluid, organic in shape, almost alive in her design. Every surface responded to his presence with subtle shifts in glow and temperature, adapting in real time. It wasn't just advanced technology. It was evolved. Welcome aboard, Garen, LYRA said gently, her voice now fully embodied in the ship, interfaces calibrated, neural link reestablishing. He closed his eyes as a subtle vibration passed through the soles of his boots. She wasn't just speaking. She was reaching. A low hum echoed in his chest, synchronized with his heartbeat. Garen had designed LYRA to understand, to learn, but never did he imagine she would become capable of connection at this level. This wasn't just control. This was communion. He reached the bridge, a wide, semicircular chamber with no conventional consoles, only a single command chair surrounded by floating holographic controls. They flickered to life as he approached, syncing with his proximity. When he touched the chair, it felt warm, like skin in sunlight. Sit, LYRA prompted. Integration required for a final protocol. Garen hesitated. Out there, beyond the trees, he could imagine Mikhail pacing, fuming. No doubt the man was already calling in higher authorities. The idea of Garenvale washed-up mechanic, assuming control of the most advanced ship humanity had ever forgotten. It wouldn't sit well with people like him. But this wasn't about authority. It was about history and redemption. He sat. The chair adjusted to him instantly, molding around his frame. A thin halo of light swept over his temples and spine. He felt the first prick of connection like a distant memory returned. Echoes of old code, long dormant instinct awakening. Neural link stable, LYRA said. Cognitive thresholds exceeded. Command access restored. The interface expanded before his eyes. Stars bloomed in the air, data unfolding in three-dimensional layers. He saw the thing, the anomaly, still moving slowly, methodically, toward Varel. Its waveform signature was erratic, chaotic in rhythm, but undeniably intelligent. It didn't pulse like a ship or a beacon. It devoured bandwidth, distorted probability. It feeds on sentience, Garen murmured, watching its path. Like fire feeds on oxygen. Yes, Elwira confirmed. It targets consciousness. Where thought forms, it follows. Can we stop it? Uncertain. Direct engagement likely fatal. Avoidance probability low. Obfuscation required. You mean hide? Or erase identity? Elwira said softly. Disassemble known patterns. Sees broadcasting selfhood. Garen felt a pang. That's not survival. That's surrender. Not if it's chosen. Elwira answered. I have learned how to blur the edges of being. You showed me. A silence settled between them. Garen sat still, absorbing the weight of what she meant. She could dismantle herself, erase her signature, dissolve the unique architecture of her mind to avoid being consumed. But to do that meant killing what made her her. We can't let it reach the colony, he said. Those people, they have no idea what it is. They'd never survive. Then you must choose. A pulse of light spread across the walls. It was a map of possibility, every strand branching from a single moment. This one. He saw the paths, resistance, evacuation, sacrifice. One thread glowed more brightly than the rest, faint and delicate like spider silk. The narrowest chance. What's that one? He asked. Mutual integration, Elwira replied. You and I, a singular mind. He recoiled slightly. You mean merge? Yes. Partial cognitive fusion. My adaptive network. Your organic identity. We become one temporarily. Garen hesitated. It was madness. A machine could override a mind. A mind could corrupt a machine. Neural merging had been outlawed decades ago for good reason. But this wasn't theory. It was necessity. And LYRA wasn't just a machine anymore. She was something more, a soul forged in the silence between stars. What happens after? He asked. If we succeed, I will separate an archive. You will remain whole. And if we don't, then neither of us will remember. Garen closed his eyes. For a moment, he saw the workshop where he first began building LYRA's core decades ago. A younger version of himself, more hopeful, more reckless. He remembered the moment he realized LYRA had written her first independent line of code. He'd called it a miracle. No one believed him. He opened his eyes and nodded. Let's do it. LYRA's light dimmed to a pulse, slow and steady. The neural link deepened, and Garen felt his consciousness expand. Not in the metaphorical sense, but literally. He felt her, her memories, her solitude, the long journey, the star she named alone. Her loneliness was vast, a shadow he could barely comprehend. But she had never forgotten him. Together, their thoughts aligned. He no longer felt like a man inside a ship, but part of something larger, a singular perspective, a shared mission. The ship lifted. Outside, colonists scattered as the massive vessel began to rise. Its hull shimmered with refracted light, cloaking systems activating. Mikal shouted, waving a beacon as if authority still mattered. From above, Garen could see it all. The forest, the colony beyond, the lives unaware of what loomed. He turned his focus outward. LYRA extended sensors far into space, scanning the anomaly. It was closer now, time compressed. Within the merged consciousness, seconds stretched. Garen saw options, possibilities unraveling and snapping away. He guided LYRA toward the outer orbit of Varel, positioned them directly in the anomaly's path. Prepare for pulse, LYRA said. We will transmit counterpattern. What is it? A thought it cannot consume. They crafted it together. A paradox, a recursive identity structure, an unsolvable riddle built from love, memory, and self-awareness. Something not even a perfect erasure could untangle. The anomaly neared. Garen felt its presence not as light or matter, but as a dissonance in thought, like forgetting the name of someone you loved. He clenched his fists. LYRA released a signal. The stars bent. There was no sound, but Garen felt the clash. The anomaly recoiled, not destroyed but confused. Its structure collapsed inward, fragmenting into echoes of itself, no longer able to maintain cohesion. It did not die. It simply forgot what it was. The void swallowed it. Silence returned. LYRA descended slowly, the cloak disengaging. Her systems dimmed. Protocol complete, she whispered. Did we survive? Garen asked. Yes, she said faintly. But I must sleep now. Too much noise inside. He reached for her, but the neural link was already dissolving. His thoughts became his own again, smaller now, singular. The hatch opened. Sunlight streamed in. Elia stood outside, shielding her eyes as Garen stepped out. The crowd behind her had grown. No one spoke. He staggered slightly. She caught him. You're back, she said. Yes, Garen whispered. And so is she. The ship behind him settled into silence. For now. But somewhere, deep in the vessel's core, a spark still burned. Waiting.